Hello and welcome to another video brought to you by AllFreeBeadedJewelryMaking.com and KeepsakeCrafts.net. Today we're going to make this very dramatic multi-strand chain necklace. So this necklace may look very complicated to you, but really it's just repetition of several of the same elements over and over again that give it its dramatic look. You'll need two different types of chain, one that's kind of chunky and one that's finer. You'll need a strand of beads, and if you don't have 13 inches of beads, some spacers to spread them out. You'll also need crimps, two crimps, beading wire, a lobster clasp, and some jump rings. And really that's it. So the first thing you need to do is cut your main chain, your chunky chain, which you'll need a total of 74 inches of. You'll need to cut that into a 45-inch piece, a 15-inch piece, and a 14-inch piece. You'll need 13 inches of strung beads, and I'll get to that in a moment. For the smaller chain, you'll need 22.5 inches, 22 inches, 21 inches, 20 inches, and 19.5 inches. Now, depending on the chain you have, you may end up adjusting it one way or another, and that's fine. For tools, you'll need two pairs of chain nose pliers, wire cutters to cut your chain, and a crimping tool, or you can just use chain nose pliers. Now I'm going to just kind of clear the decks here a little bit and make some space so that you can see what I'm doing. Did I mention you need a clasp? Of course, this necklace is long enough that you really don't need a clasp, but I am sort of fanatical about being able to adjust things, so I will add a clasp. Okay. So let's get started with our 13 inches of strung beads. This is just a nice accent, and you can leave it off, but I really like it. It just adds a little something different. So what you need to do is cut yourself a nice long piece of this beading wire. This is called tiger tail. It's just a very basic beading wire. And you need to string 13 inches of beads and spacers on it. So now I've taken the time to string my accent beads, and I've used these little brass beads to space them out and make 13 inches of beads on this tiger tail wire. I also have a really great tool, pair of hemostats, that holds the wire end so that my stringing isn't going to end up on the floor if I accidentally knock into it. So I'm going to set that aside for a minute. And then let's turn to the longest length of chain, the 45-inch length. And this is pretty long, but I'm going to add a clasp so that it will be adjustable. And what I've done, there were some little extra bits of wire holding the chain to its packaging. And I actually dug those out of the trash can. And I've used them to mark 9.5 inches from the end of the chain and 13 inches from the end of the chain on both ends, because this is where our loops, our other lengths of chain are going to go. And then if you count, you've got 5, 6, 7, and 8 different things that are going to go on these lengths. Between these loops I have 10 links. So I'm just going to try to space them out evenly. So I'm going to take my longest length here, my second longest, the 15-inch piece of chunky chain, and I'm just going to put them together and find the longer one. And that's going to go right down here. And because this is such chunky chain, now normally I would tell you to open jump rings by twisting them sideways, but because this is flat chain, it's kind of a pain to do that, so I'm actually just going to pull them apart, put it right in that spot, and then close it up with my pliers. And then repeat to attach this piece of chain on the other side. You know, just open it up just enough to get in there. Pop it on. And then the flattened links, you can just squeeze them shut. Just make sure they're closed securely. So there's one. And then I'm going to do the same thing to add this piece. So here I have gone ahead and strung 13 inches of beads. I've used my accent beads and then separated them with these little brass spacers. I'm going to leave the hemostats on one end and start working on the other end. And the first thing to do is slide on a crimp bead. And then because this chain is so chunky and this wire is so fine, I'm pretty sure this wire would pull right through the split in the chain, especially where it's flattened. I'm going to actually make my little wire loop hinge on a split ring here and then attach that to the chain, and that will be far more secure. So go through your crimp bead, through a split ring, and then back through the crimp bead. Flatten out your two wires so that they're lying side by side, not crisscrossed over each other. And then just use a pair of chain nose pliers to flatten out that crimp. Give it an extra good squeeze, and always test how secure your crimp is after you've made it. So then we've slid through, a ½ inch or so of beads, and we'll just trim off, being very careful to only trim the excess wire. And then slide the beads down and repeat on the other end. So now it's just a matter of attaching this beaded section, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it. I'm going to skip a link and then attach it up here. Like I said, you might have to make some adjustments depending on what your chain is like. Like I said, because you can see this, it's fairly thick, so to have it with a thin wire just isn't going to do. So I'm going to pull it apart just a little, slide in one of my split rings, and make sure to close it up, and then repeat on the other side. The final step is to attach these lengths of chain, and you're going to work your way up from the largest to the smallest using jump rings and attach them to the links. And that's why I marked these with little twists of wire so that I would make sure they were kept level. So here you can see I've gone ahead and attached all these lengths of chain with jump rings, and it's nice to have the chunky chain on the side so that you've got some good separation. And it's hard to show on this, but as you see in the still photos, it does drape beautifully. The last step to do is to attach your lobster clasp with a jump ring. So here's another look at our necklace, our project for today. Thank you so much for watching Keepsake Crafts videos. Please be sure to check out keepsakecrafts.net for more jewelry, crafting, sewing, and all kinds of creative ideas and inspiration. Have a good one. Bye-bye.